Hello everyone, welcome back to another F1 Fantasy video. Technically, the first F1 Fantasy video of 2024. Now, in today's video, I won't actually be going over any of the F1 Fantasy tips. I'll be going over that after pre-season testing, which is in a week. However, today I'm going to go over the rules of F1 Fantasy, everything that's changed, everything that's stayed, and everything I like and don't like about this year's rules. But quickly, before we start the video, I have officially made my new league for the 2024 season. Last season, we were able to get 126 people in it, so I'm aiming for 150 this year. So please join up if you want to. So first off, one thing that I hated last year was the transfers being only -4, because in F1 Fantasy, you will be scoring averagely around 250 on a bad weekend to potentially up to 400 and above on a good weekend. -4 doesn't really do anything to that score. And I even spoke about this in my video, basically saying what I didn't like about F1 Fantasy, and they've changed it. It's now -10 per every additional transfer that you use past the 2 transfers, which is perfect. -10. I would have put it still a little bit higher. However, -10 is definitely enough of a hit to push people to not want to do this. And also, you can only make up to 2 free transfers per team. And the issue with it last year was you could make up to 3 if you stored them. And with F1 Fantasy, there's only 7 changes you can make over altogether. There's only 7 things in your team. So being able to change a little less than half of your team was an issue last season. So only being able to make 2 free transfers is perfect. It actually means wildcard is going to be useful. Exciting times. And then the other major thing they've changed is they've changed the no negative chip. Now, what has changed with the no negative is exactly as followed. The no negative is applied per scoring category, not just the overall total for the driver or constructor. You will still be deducted points for making more than the permitted number of free transfers. I think this is a great add-on to the no negative, although it's not that much of a change. But that is the only chip that's changed. Autopilot has stayed the same, extra DRS has stayed the same, wildcard has stayed the same, and limitless. Is that good? Sort of. I still don't really like no negative. I don't think they've changed it that much. I also think autopilot should have been the one to change. However, we're going in the right direction, which is the main thing. And I'll quickly go over what each of these chips do so you know ahead of the new season. We'll start off with autopilot, and autopilot changes the DRS boost that is given to your driver, which is 2 times to the driver that you choose in your team, and it basically changes it to the driver who did best in your team. Last season it was pretty useless because it was always Verstappen. However, maybe this season it will change. Extra DRS, you still get the 2 times on one of your drivers. However, you get an extra 3 times boost on another driver. I really like this. It's an amazing chip. That's all you really need to know about it. No negative, I've already talked about the new thing to it, but basically, if your driver has a DNF or scores minus, he doesn't lose any points. It just defaults to 0, which is perfect for races where there's lots of crashes or where you can't really overtake, so you can't make it up in the race. The wildcard, you can change your whole team for free. This is perfect around the summertime normally. That's how it worked out last season. But yeah, because you can normally only do 2 free transfers this season, you can change your whole team for free. Obviously, you still have your total balance. But if you've got a lot of changes to do, like for instance, last season, Aston Martin to McLaren, there was a lot of changes to do there. That's the perfect time to use something like the wildcard. And then the limitless chip is where no money is applied. You can pick whoever you want. That means you could have Red Bull and Ferrari as constructors, Leclerc, Perez, Verstappen, Hamilton, all in one team. Anyone else, all the big boys in one team for one race weekend. Another one that I really enjoy. Extra DRS and limitless are my favourite. And then almost forgot to talk about final fix, but this chip is basically where if your team hasn't done very well in qualifying, say one driver's just really qualified badly and it's like Monaco where you can't overtake, or you just don't have any faith in them getting you any points, you can make 1 free change after qualifying to just remove this issue from your team. But those are the chips and everything that has changed going forward into 2024. Now let's go over the rules that haven't changed for anyone who does not know them. So in qualifying, you will get 10 points for pole position, and then it goes down by 1 point until 10th place, where you get 1 point, and then 11th to 20th you get none. No time set, you get -5, and getting disqualified is -15. Again, I still think the disqualification in qualifying, it's not too bad, because unless you're really unlucky, this doesn't happen often. However, it's still a bit of an issue. -15 is still quite high. I think it should be set at -10. And those points are specifically for your drivers. And for the constructors, this is how the points are as followed. If neither driver finishes in Q2, it's -1 point. If one driver gets to Q2, it's 1 point. If both drivers get to Q2, it's 3 points. One driver reaches Q3, 5 points. Both drivers to Q3, 10 points. Again, like I said, I've said before, qualifying is a bit scuffed in F1 Fantasy. It's still going to be this season. I think they should have revamped the qualifying point system, because there's so much you can exploit from doing badly in qualifying, because you get so much more points in the races. However, that is as followed. I would also like to add for qualifying that the constructors get both the drivers' points combined. However, those are how the points are going to be scored this season. Then in the sprint, you'll have the driver's points again, where positions gained are 1 point, positions lost is -1, overtakes made is an extra 1 point, and fastest lap is 5 points. And then for the drivers, the sprint results, you start with 8 points, again going 1 point down until you get to 8th place, where you'll have 1 point, and then 9th to 20th is 0. Again though, disqualified -25 points, and DNF -20. We've had issues with DNFs being -20, because sometimes, especially when it's not the driver's fault, it can be very harsh and ruin your entire weekend. I know it's happened to me a few times last season, and I know a lot of us really wanted this to be changed and put down lower, especially in the sprint races and the actual races. However, they haven't done it this year. And then constructor-wise, for the sprint races, it's just a combined total of both of their drivers. So let's say you had both Red Bull drivers. So let's say Verstappen got 6 points, Perez got 4. You'd have 10 points overall for your constructor. It's that simple. And then going into the actual race, again, it's the same with positions gained, positions lost, 1 and -1. Overtakes made, again, 1 point. Fastest lap is 10 points. And again, another thing I had an issue with last season and have kept for this season is driver of the day, which is 10 points. Again, it's because driver of the day tends to be a popularity contest. You could have Verstappen winning the entire race by miles ahead, done everything right this weekend, deserves driver of the day, but someone like Lando Norris will get it because he came 2nd place and came up from 4th, and Lando Norris will get the 10 points, and it's a little unfair considering the fans vote for driver of the day. So I think it's a bit scuffed for a whole 10 points to be added to your team. I've always said it should be 5 or less for driver of the day. And then for race results, it's the same as the normal scoring point system in F1. 1st place 25, 2nd place 18, 3rd place 15th, 4th place 12, 5th place 10th, 6th 8, 7th 6, 8th 4th, 9th 2, and 10th 1. 11th to 20th get nothing, and again, like the sprint races, disqualified is -25 and DNF is -20. And the same rules apply to the constructors, it's just the total of both drivers' points combined. However, an extra little bit of detail is added to the actual races, which I really enjoy, which is the fastest pit stops. You get 10 points for the fastest pit stop, 2nd place gets 5, and 3rd place gets 3. I really enjoy that just because it adds a little bit extra detail to the races. And not only this, if a race has more than 1 pit stop, which most races tend to have, it's not actually just, oh, if McLaren get the fastest pit stop, they get 10. No, if McLaren get the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd fastest pit stops, they can actually get all 18 points. So you can't just come 1st and then not come anywhere else. You can come 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, which is also an insane thing, because then if you're going for the fastest lap, you could have, say, McLaren and Lando Norris going for the fastest lap, an extra 10 points on the final lap, potentially fastest pit stops points with an extra 10 points. So there's loads of points that could come from everywhere in F1 Fantasy. That's why it's really crucial that you do know the point scoring system. But yeah, those are all the rules going into the 2024 F1 Fantasy season. I will be having a video out on Monday after pre-season testing, just basically showing which teams I'm going to be going for, which teams you should go for. We're all going to be starting on the same, so it's going to be very interesting. But I'm not going to be making a video before pre-season testing because I think there's just no point, you know what I mean? Because I'll make a video being like, oh, I think this, and as soon as someone does good, I'll be saying something completely different the next day. So I'll make a video on Monday, and then I'm planning on doing a little live stream before the deadline to go over any changes that I've had, any changes of heart that I've had within that week. But anyway, thank you all for watching. Hope you all do well in the upcoming F1 2024 season, and I'll see you all later. Bye bye.